Hola, bienvenidos al podcast de los pronombres relativos. Hola, I'm Senora Stanias, and for Spanish 3, we'll be looking at relative pronouns in this podcast. Students will be learning about the three relative pronouns que, quien, quienes, y lo que, and how we use each of these in our written and spoken communication in Spanish. Make sure as you're going through this podcast, students, that you have your grammar sheet with you, that you're taking notes, and make sure you're also writing down any questions you might have for me. In both Spanish and English, relative pronouns are used to combine two sentences or clauses that share a common element that could be a noun or it could be a pronoun. Here we have an example of two separate sentences. Mis padres me regalaron la pintura. La pintura es muy bonita. I can combine those two because I'm sharing the common element of la pintura. Now, la pintura que me regalaron mis padres es muy bonita. Our common element can also be a person. We have two separate sentences. Lourdes es muy inteligente. Lourdes estudia español. That can be combined. Lourdes, quien estudia español, es muy inteligente. There are three frequently used relative pronouns in Spanish. Unlike question words such as que or quien, our relative pronouns will never carry a written accent. That's one way we know that they are relative pronouns and not question words. There's que, quien or quienes, and lo que. We will look at each of these as we go through the podcast. We'll start with que, because que is the most frequently used relative pronoun in Spanish. It can refer to things or to people. And unlike the English counterpart, that, que is never omitted in our sentences, neither in written or spoken Spanish. When we need to have that relative pronoun, it has to be there. ¿Dónde está la cafetera que compré? Notice in English, I could just as easily say, where is the coffee maker I bought? But in Spanish, we have to have that que. Otro ejemplo. El hombre quien limpia es Pedro. Now we're going to look at quien and quienes. That relative pronoun only can refer to people, and it is often used after a preposition or that personal a couple. And you'll notice, of course, quien is singular, quienes would mean that we're looking at something plural. ¿Son las chicas de quienes me hablaste la semana pasada? Eva, a quien conocí anoche, es mi nueva vecina. We're going to continue looking at quienes and quien. They are occasionally used instead of que in clauses that are set off by commas. This is occasionally. This doesn't mean that it has to be. For example, Lola, quien es cubana, es médica. Versus su tía, que es alemana, ya llegó. They're both correct. And we do want to notice that in English, it is generally recommended that who or whom be used to refer to people, and that and which are used to refer to things. In Spanish, however, it is perfectly acceptable to use que when referring to people at any time, which is probably one of the reasons why que becomes the most widely used relative pronoun. Now we're going to look at lo que, the last of the three relative pronouns we are looking in this podcast. Unlike que and quien, lo que doesn't refer to a specific noun. It will refer to an idea, a situation, or a past event, and means what, that which, or the thing that. A couple of examples for you. Lo que me molesta es el calor. Lo que quiero es una casa. Este supermercado tiene todo lo que necesito. Now, if this ends this podcast, if you have any questions, make sure you write them down. fill them into that Google Docs that you will find right below this podcast. Gracias y hasta mañana.